Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Buddyfight deck profile video. So today is going to be on a budget Lost World deck, and what I mean by budget is a single copy of any given card on this list should not cost you more than $5. Because Lost World as a whole, a lot of the core and important cards are very expensive. Some of them did get reprinted, which helped lower the price, but because some of those cards' prices got lowered, the inverse happened, and any card that wasn't lowered, that was a staple, went up in price. There's only really two different ways of building a solid budget Lost World deck. You're either running Apesto or you're going to be running Cthugha. Each one of these cards has a little core package that they want to be running, and that's going to make up a good chunk of the deck. And then the rest of the deck is just more generically decent enough effects that just so happen to combo and synergize well with each other. So to start off the list, I'm running 4 copies of Apesto. His call cost is pay 10 gauge, and then when this card enters the field, you can put up to 5 cards from your drop zone into its soul. You don't take damage from your opponent's monster effects, and this card cannot be rested, and its crit can't be reduced by your opponent's card effects. Then he has Move, Penetrate, Triple Attack, Soul Guard, and Counter Attack. He's going to be hitting very hard, and he could also be very tanky. Next, I'm running 4 copies of Vile Vortex. So for this turn, all cast cost, equip cost, and call cost of cards in your hand are lost, which means they just don't have a cost associated with them. That's kind of how we can play Apesto, is with Vile Vortex, because it gets rid of his call cost. Next, I'm running 4 copies of Vanity, Destruct, Vanish. So its cast cost is pay 1 gauge. Stand a Lost Vader on your field for this turn. It gets +5 crit and penetrate. Then you could attack with it. The whole idea is to attack with Apesto, try to win off of his natural 5 crit, penetrate, and triple attack. And then if that somehow doesn't work, you just cast Vanity, Destruct, Vanish, giving him an extra 5 crit, and try to kill them again. And because it has such a low cast cost of paying 1 gauge, you could cast it multiple times in the same final phase. So that way you could just keep attacking during the final phase. On top of which, even if you've played Vile Vortex and you have enough Vanity, Destruct, Vanish in your hand, then you could just cast it for free. This is kind of the core of Apesto, is just these 3 cards. Next, I'm running 4 copies of Fallen Fang. His call cost is put a Lost Vader from your drop zone into its soul, and then all abilities of cards on your field can't be nullified by your opponent's card effects. So he's really in here just for that effect, so that way your opponent can't nullify your card's effects. And then nullify all abilities of your opponent's monster that's in front of this card, and then he's got Move, Double Attack, and Soul Guard. Next, I'm running 4 copies of Vile Demonic Deity Dragon Vanity Epoch Destroyer. So its call cost is when a Lost World monster is put from your field into the drop zone, you can pay 2 gauge. This card on the field cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, and he has Dimension Door Impetus, which is when this card enters the field, choose up to 2 cards on your opponent's field, drop all souls from the chosen card, and then put the card into the drop, and he has double attack. The fact that he got reprinted and the reprint made him less than $5 is very good for a lot of budget Lost World decks. Next, I'm running 2 copies of Ker Phobmand. So when a Lost Vader on your field attacks, could be him, could be a different one, doesn't matter as long as they're a Lost Vader, but when they attack, destroy a card on your opponent's field and deal 1 damage to your opponent. And he has double attack. So the whole idea is to attack and basically just pick off the opponent's board. Most of the time, you're going to be targeting their item or set spell first, because that's usually where a lot of the immunities start. He is weak to rest spells, but we don't necessarily care about that, because if you're running Episto, then it doesn't necessarily matter, because you're just going to swing in with Apesto anyway. Next, I'm running 2 copies of Zascyth. So its call cost is pay 1 gauge. When this card enters the field, nullify all abilities of a card on your opponent's field and destroy it, and then he also has double attack. again, he's just kind of filling the same role as Ker, where it's just acting as removal. Next, I'm running 4 copies of Dimension Breeding. So this is just the cheapest draw engine card that Lost World has at this point. And what it does is you may only cast this card if you have 2 or more Lost Vader cards on your field. Then put the top 2 cards of your deck into your gauge, gain 2 life, and draw 2 cards, and then you can only use it once per turn. Just a very simple resource engine card. And then lastly, I'm running 2 copies of Vile Demonic Arms Lostless Wall. So your opponent can't call monsters by card effects, which is very, very powerful. On top of which it has a counteract ability. During an attack on your opponent's turn, you may pay 1 gauge. If you do, nullify the attack, and then it has double attack. Most of the time, you're not really going to be attacking with it, but if you do, the double attack is nice, and really it's just there as a solid form of defense because you could use the effect multiple times in a single turn. And then as far as the other package, you're going to be running Cthugha. This card can't be bounced by your opponent's card effects, and then at the start of your final phase, you gain 1 life and deal 1 damage to your opponent for each Lost Vader on your field. That part's really important because if you have 3 Cthulhas out and then a set spell and item, that's 5 different Lost Vaders. So each Cthulha is going to be dealing 5 and you'll be gaining 5. So that's 15 just from effect damage. Cthulha is next. You could run Flourishing of Nihility and Desperation. So its cast cost is put 7 cards from your drop zone into its soul, and then it's a set spell. Counter, during an attack on your opponent's turn, you may drop a soul from this card. If you do, nullify the attack. It's there for 2 reasons. One, it's a set spell for Cthulha, and you could have more than 1 of this set spell on your field at a time. So you could potentially have 2 to 3 to even all 4 Flourishings on your field, which just increases the amount of burn damage Cthulha does. On top of which, it's just more defense. For Flourishing, you just take out Vile Vortex. And then lastly, for the Cthulha package, you're just going to be running 4 copies of Vanity Zero Blazer. You can only cast this if there's 2 or more Lost Vaders on your field. The set spell is a Lost Vader, so it does also count towards that, so it makes it easier to cast. And then you just pay 3 gauge and deal 10 damage to the opponent. Just one thing to note, that this card is getting more expensive and harder to find, but it currently still fits within the budget Lost World rules. That's why I included it. And obviously to fit in Zero Blazer, you just take out Destruct, Vanish. Lost World has still some pretty decent budget options. I really only think that these are the only 2 ways to build the deck, either using Apesto or Cthugha at this point, and then just trying to find whatever good cards you could run to complement them. That's all I have for this video. I hope you like and subscribe for more Buddyfight content. As always, the deck lists will be in the description below. Feel free to comment if there's any cards you think would be a good card to add to either budget deck. And with all that being said, I'll see you in the next video.